You? Driving this car? Yeah, right. Step out before we cuff you. The voice sliced through the early morning silence like broken glass on asphalt. Black tires kissed the edge of the freeway shoulder. The engine of the matte black rolls. Royce Phantom purring to a halt. Blue and red lights spun in the rear. View mirror. Blinding. Accusing. The officer didn't wait for a response. He slammed the door shut behind him and marched straight up to the driver's side, like he'd already decided what kind of man was inside. Inside, Malcolm Blackwell sat still. No sudden movements. He'd learned that long ago. Even now, dressed in a charcoal suit worth more than most patrol cars, sitting behind the wheel of a machine polished to perfection, he felt the tension coil in his spine like it had when he was 16. The officer didn't ask for license or registration. He just yanked the door open. I said, "Get out. You fit the profile, and I am not in the mood to argue." Another car screeched to a stop behind the cruiser. A second cop. Back up. Already. A third officer began filming on a body cam. Not for protocol, for performance. Malcolm stepped out slowly, his polished shoes meeting the asphalt, like a gavel on courtroom marble. Phones started recording from the overpass above. Passers-by leaned over rails, whispers turning into gasps. Why did this feel like a scene they'd seen before? And before. "Hands where I can see 'em," barked the second officer, already drawing cuffs. "Sir, is this your vehicle?" Before Malcolm could speak, the third officer muttered, "Come on. No way he owns that." The cuffs clicked shut, and Malcolm looked up at them. Not afraid, not confused, just quiet. Too quiet. But what those officers didn't know was, they had just messed with someone who'd been through worse and survived. They didn't know his name yet, but they were about to. Malcolm Elijah Blackwell wasn't just a man behind a wheel. He was the mind behind the data security of half the Fortune 500, the founder of Sentinel Data Systems, the man who once slept on a friend's couch while coding all night, now worth billions. But that morning to them, he was just another black man in a car they didn't think he deserved. Funny how power disappears behind tinted glass. Growing up in a small brick duplex in South Chicago, Malcolm learned early that the world saw him as a threat before it ever saw his worth. His mother, a school teacher, used to whisper before he went to sleep, "One day, baby, you'll walk into rooms where they won't clap for you, but they'll be forced to listen." And so he worked. Harder than anyone around him. Harder than anyone believed possible. By 16, he had rebuilt his school's entire network after a malware attack. By 19, he was consulting for city agencies under a pseudonym. And by 25, he was the youngest to secure a cyber contract with the Department of Defense. Still, none of that protected him from the glances, the sideways eyes in elevators, the hesitant, "Can I help you?" from front desks. Or on this day, the cuffs on his wrists. He wasn't flashy. He never needed to be. The suit was clean. His wrist bore a simple watch, custom made, but without diamonds. No logo on his briefcase, just smooth, black leather and silent weight. He believed real power didn't have to shout, but it remembered every name, every insult, every time someone thought he didn't belong. And when power remembers, it waits. That morning, Malcolm wasn't in a hurry to shout, but the system around him was about to scream. And now, standing by the highway, cold steel tightening around his wrists, he thought only one thing: you picked the wrong day. And now, standing in that luxury car, he wasn't just a man. He was a symbol of everything they didn't expect. The scent inside the car was subtle. Black leather warmed by morning sun. A faint trace of bergamot from the cologne Malcolm had dabbed under his collar hours before. The kind of smell that said power, not performance. A silk folder sat unopened in the passenger seat, embossed with a discreet logo, G20. Inside it, an acquisition deal worth $0.310 million. On the dashboard, his phone buzzed once. A message flashed. "Boardroom ready. Waiting on your arrival." But that boardroom would wait. Outside the window, the world had narrowed to uniforms and drawn voices, to suspicion and spectacle. The officer's sunglasses reflected Malcolm's still face, but his tone didn't match the calm in front of him. "Step back. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The second cruiser pulled up, and with it came a younger cop, maybe 24, hand already twitching near his taser. He resisting? No, but he's got attitude. Malcolm hadn't said a word. Still, attitude was the offense. Existing with calm confidence. That was the threat. People slowed down as they drove past, some rolling down their windows. A girl pointed from the back seat of a minivan. Mom, is that a movie or something? A man on a motorcycle took out his phone and started recording. Up above, on an overpass, a couple paused mid-jog watching the scene unfold. From luxury to suspect, in 60 seconds. Malcolm noticed the hesitation in the rookie's fingers. The way he shifted his weight back and forth. Nervous, uncertain. But the one giving orders, older, heavier, decorated, had the grin of someone who felt too sure of how this would end. He reached into Malcolm's car without asking and picked up the leather folder. What's this? Plans to buy another toy. He opened it halfway, scanning the top line. Then scoffed. Yeah, right, you? Acquiring G20 Solutions? He tossed the folder back onto the seat, papers spilling across the passenger floor. Malcolm's eye didn't flinch, but something behind them turned colder. They say rage shows in your hands, in your mouth. But Malcolm's rage was quieter. It showed in his stillness, in how tightly he clenched his jaw, in how long he stared at the man who just discarded months of work like trash. The officer turned back to his team. We'll run the plates. Probably stolen. But the rookie asked quietly. Shouldn't we at least check ID? The older one snapped. I know what I am doing. People like this lie with documents too. People like this. The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Malcolm let out a slow breath. Gold trim on the car's interior gleamed in the sunlight, bouncing off a silver pen engraved with his initials. His name. His legacy. And they didn't even care to ask it. But this morning, the tension in the air felt sharper, like something was about to snap. The folder lay splayed across the leather seat, contracts flapping in the breeze. One sheet fluttered to the pavement. The officer didn't pick it up. He kicked it instead, right under the car. Should have used fake paperwork that looked a little more realistic, he muttered, smirking as if he'd just cracked a case. The young cop glanced at Malcolm, then back at the senior officer. But sir, his license plate checks out. The registration. The older one barked. You think these people don't know how to fake those too? Malcolm's fists clenched behind his back, still cuffed, cold steel pressing against his wrists. Tighter now. That's when it happened. A passing car slowed. The driver held up a phone. He wasn't trying to help. He just wanted the drama. Livestream icon glowing red in the corner of the screen. Title. Rich black dude busted in Rolls-Royce. The older officer noticed and turned toward the phone. Then, for the cameras, for the world, he shoved Malcolm forward. Hard. Malcolm stumbled, catching himself on the hood of his own car. Gasps, online and in real time. One man in the distance shouted, Hey, what the hell was that? The officer turned, one eyebrow cocked. Stay in your car if you know what's good for you. He turned back to Malcolm, now leaning forward slightly on the hood. You are going to tell me exactly where you got this car, right now, or we start impounding. Another cop circled to the passenger side and opened the glove compartment without a warrant. Empty, he said. That's suspicious. Malcolm looked over his shoulder, calm, but direct. My registration is in the center console. You never asked. The senior cop laughed. You really think talking smart changes anything? Malcolm said nothing, just stared. A slow build of pressure behind the eyes. Not tears. Tension. Not fear. Fury. The officer got in his face. Inches away. You don't belong in this car. You don't belong on this road. You think a suit hides who you really are? That was it? The rookie stepped back. Even he knew the line had been crossed. Another phone came up. A second live stream. One viewer commented, He's calm. Too calm. Something's off. Another. Bro, that officer's finished. If this guy's anybody important. But they still didn't know. And neither did the crowd forming on the overpass. People pointing, filming, whispering. A woman in gym clothes mouthed, Is he famous? And Malcolm? He stared forward again, into the air ahead. Not answering, not resisting, just waiting. The second officer nudged the older one. Sir, we've got over 1,200 live viewers. He smirked. Good, let him see what happens when someone tries to fake class. Then he said the words that made Malcolm's pulse spike. Let me see some proof you even belong in this car. A gust of wind caught one of the scattered papers from the folder. A signed letter of intent between Sentinel Data Systems and G20 Solutions, and swept it down the highway. Malcolm didn't flinch. But inside, everything burned. He remembered being 14, getting stopped outside a mall for matching a description. He remembered his mother holding his chin, saying, "Don't ever let them define who you are by what they refuse to see." But now, again, they didn't see him. They only saw what they wanted. A threat in a tailored suit. The officer pushed him again, this time harder. "Let me guess. Rented for the weekend to impress someone." He pulled Malcolm's wallet from his pocket without asking. Opened it, saw the black titanium card inside, smirked. "Cute prop." He dropped it, not in Malcolm's hand, on the asphalt. A low sound rippled through the crowd, a kind of hush that isn't quiet. It's electrified. From the overpass, a kid's voice shouted, "Why'd he drop his card like that?" Another voice answered, "'Cause he thinks he can." Malcolm knelt slowly, picking up the card with his cuffed hands. He didn't break eye contact, didn't raise his voice, didn't shake, but his silence was volcanic. His calm, calculated. Online. The viewer count hit 5,000. Someone zoomed in on the officer's badge number and posted it with the words, "This better not get swept under the rug." On Twitter, a trending tag began forming. Number Rolls-Royce Justice, and still, Malcolm said nothing. "You gonna speak?" the officer asked. "Or you want us to go full search mode?" From the live stream, one commenter typed, "Bro, he's about to go John Wick on y'all in a suit." Another, "I don't know who this guy is, but he's not scared. He's patient." That's worse. The rookie officer finally stepped back. I think we should call a supervisor." The senior snapped. "You think I don't know protocol? Wah. I am the supervisor here." He turned back to Malcolm. "Last chance. Say something that proves this ain't stolen." Malcolm looked up, eyes clear, jaw set. Then, he spoke. 8 words. Not loud, not angry, just sharp enough to slice through all the noise. "You just made the worst mistake of your career." For a moment, no one moved. Then, a silver BMW slid to a halt behind the last patrol car. Door opened. A woman stepped out. Young, maybe late 20s, black suit, red heels, tablet in one hand, Idaho badge clipped to her belt. Her steps were quick. She pushed through the forming crowd, walked straight to the officers like she belonged there. "Excuse me," she said firmly. "What exactly is going on here?" The senior officer didn't look up. "Ma'am, step back. Police business." She lifted her badge. "Federal Legal Counsel. I am requesting an immediate explanation and probable cause documentation for this detainment." That made him pause. Malcolm looked over, the first flicker of surprise crossing his face all day. She turned to him. "Mr. Blackwell, are you okay?" The crowd stirred. A few gasped. A woman whispered to her boyfriend, "Wait, did she just say Blackwell?" The officer furrowed his brow. "And you are?" She didn't answer him. Instead, she pointed at the live streamer. "You over there. Can you send me that video footage? I'd like a timestamp on the moment this officer opened the car without a warrant." The officer stepped in front of her. "Ma'am, I am going to need you to leave." She didn't blink. "I am not your ma'am. I am Miss Renee Carter, in-house counsel for Sentinel Data Systems. And you are standing 2 feet away from your second civil rights violation in under 5 minutes." The rookie officer froze. The senior turned red. "You are bluffing." She took a step forward, her voice low but lethal. "Say that again." Into my tablet's microphone this time. Malcolm finally smiled. Not wide, just a subtle twitch at the corner of his mouth. Relief. Number recognition. Renee Carter had interned at his firm 4 years ago. Quiet. Brilliant. Relentless. He hadn't seen her since she got her degree. Now she stood between him and the storm. The live stream exploded with comments. "She's a lawyer. He's Mr. Blackwell? Oh, this just got good." One officer muttered, "We need to call the captain." Renee didn't wait. She tapped on her tablet. "Already did. They're watching this too." Malcolm looked at her. "Thank you," he said softly. She nodded. "No one messes with Sentinel. Not today." Renee stood tall, holding her ground. The senior officer stared at her, like she'd just spoken in a language he refused to learn. "Miss Carter, I don't care who you work for," he snapped. "You are interfering with police authority. This man," he jabbed a finger toward Malcolm, "is under investigation." "For what?" She shot back. He hesitated. That half-second pause was everything. For suspicion of Grand Theft Auto, the crowd murmured, laughed. Even, you think he stole a Rolls Royce wearing a .5000 suit, and calmly waited for you to arrive, she said, almost amused. The officer leaned in. Voice low. Angry. Lady, I've seen 100 hustlers dress the part. Doesn't mean he ain't playing someone. Malcolm's eyes narrowed. The officer wasn't just doubling down. He was spiraling. And then, he made a mistake. A big one. He picked up Malcolm's custom briefcase off the hood of the car, opened it, without consent, without a warrant. Inside was a secure, fingerprint, locked tablet. Sentinel model. He poked it. It beeped. Locked. What's the password? He smirked. Malcolm didn't answer. Instead, he turned slightly toward Renee. Has internal security logged this feed yet? She nodded. They've been watching since minute 2. We're at minute 11 now. The officer threw the briefcase back onto the car. Hard. Then, in front of everyone, the crowd, the live stream, the overpass, the entire internet, he pointed in Malcolm's face. You people think you can walk into our world, buy shiny things, and suddenly you belong here. He wasn't shouting. He didn't have to. His words landed like spit in a handshake. You are just another thug in a suit. That silence again. He had said it. Finally, the phrase that generations recognized like smoke before fire. The rookie officer took 2 steps back. Renee blinked. Stunned. Malcolm didn't move. He just smiled, but not with his mouth, with his eyes. Renee stepped forward. Voice flat. Do you know who you are talking to? The officer laughed. Oh, please. I've seen his type. Instagram money. Rented life. Loud cars. Quiet brains. Someone from the overpass shouted. Bro, he's trending worldwide. The officer ignored it. Let me guess, Crypto King? TikTok. CEO? Renee inhaled, but before she could say anything, Malcolm did. 3 calm words, not loud, but lethal. Call your captain. The officer blinked. What? Now? Malcolm said, his tone final. You've got 30 seconds. Or what? Renee tapped on her tablet. Or the governor calls him first. The crowd gasped. The live stream blew up. Bro, what? Governor. The rookie whispered. Sir, I think you should call. Still, the senior officer hesitated. So Malcolm gave him one last gift. He tilted his head, just slightly, and said, Google me. The officer didn't reach for his phone. He stared at Malcolm like the words Google me were a joke, a dare. But Malcolm didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't move. He just stood there, cuffed, composed, and utterly unbothered. Renee raised her tablet. I'll help you. She typed one word, Blackwell, then another, Sentinel. Turned the screen toward the officer. At first, he refused to look. But the crowd leaned closer. Phones refreshed. Tweets exploded. Malcolm Blackwell is the founder and CEO of Sentinel Data Systems. This man is the reason your bank app doesn't crash when 5 million people log in. This man has clearance higher than half the senators you vote for. The officer's eyes narrowed. His lip twitched. He read one headline out loud. Black tech mogul buys controlling share of G20, merges with federal infrastructure. Renee spoke, clear and loud. This man, this thug in a suit, was en route to Washington for a classified infrastructure security meeting with 3 federal agencies. Gasps. Not from the live stream. From the officers. Even the rookie stepped back. His hands open now, apologetic. Malcolm turned slightly. His cuffed hands were still behind his back, but his presence shifted, from quiet to undeniable. I am not here to impress you, he said. I don't care if you believe me. But now, the rest of the world knows exactly what you just did. The senior officer glanced around. Sweat formed under his collar. You set this up, he muttered. Malcolm looked him dead in the eye. I don't need to set up injustice, he said. You've been practicing it your whole career. One of the live streamers turned their phone around, revealing thousands watching. Sir, the rookie said, voice cracking, we really need to call the captain. Another officer tapped his radio. Dispatch. We may need a supervisor on site. Immediately. Renee folded her arms. I already contacted Internal Affairs. The senior officer laughed. A dry, bitter sound. You think this little tech billionaire act scares me? Malcolm smiled. The real one. For the first time. You should be scared. He turned slightly toward the nearest cruiser, where the dashcam had been blinking since minute 1. You are on 7 feeds, including 2 law enforcement surveillance servers that Sentinel manages. He tilted his head, and our auto tagging AI just flagged 4 violations in under 12 minutes. Live. Phones lit up again. Screenshots, edits, memes, a split screen of Malcolm's face, and the officer's angry outburst. Captions. You people don't belong here. He literally built the servers you are uploading this to. The crowd shifted. The mood shifted. Suddenly, no one was laughing anymore. Malcolm exhaled, looked out over the people, over the highway, over the city beyond, and said calmly, "You just violated a federal contractor." The officer opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out, and for the first time that morning, the one giving orders was speechless. A low hum cut through the chaos. Then, a vibration in Malcolm's pocket. His smartwatch blinked, even while cuffed. He lifted his hand slightly, showing the screen. A message glowed in blue. Confirmed, Governor viewing live. Proceed. He looked up, eyes like glass under pressure. Let's make this formal. He turned toward Renee. Pull up Sentinel Core Protocol 7.2. She nodded, unlocking a secure folder on her tablet. Lines of legal clauses flashed across the screen. Emergency Response Authority. Federal Partner Override. The officer squinted. What is this? Renee didn't look up. This document grants Mr. Blackwell the legal authority to report, suspend, and reassign personnel connected to any active investigation that interferes with national security communication. Pause. Which includes this unlawful detainment. Which includes you. The rookie officer looked like he might throw up. Renee tapped again. A real-time status board appeared. South Dakota's Active Contracts FAA Law Enforcement Federal Bureau of Cybersecurity FAA.48 OM Homeland Civilian Data Security FAA.1.2b National Police AI Infrastructure FAA.86 OM. A sidebar showed. Status Full Administrative Access Malcolm E. Blackwell. The crowd gasped. One man stuttered. That's more than our entire city budget. On Twitter, a trending reply screamed, "He controls the system that stores their body cam footage." Another, "They arrested the admin." Malcolm looked directly at the live streamer. "Keep filming." Then he looked at the officer who had shoved him minutes earlier. "I control the servers that store your employment record." A beat. "And I've just logged your badge for suspension review," the officer barked. "That's not how this works." Malcolm tilted his head. "That's exactly how this works." Renee swiped again. A call icon appeared. SDS Chainlink Executive Ops voice answered. "Sentinel Command. Ready." "This is Blackwell," Malcolm said. "Flag incident, 847. B. Violation confirmed. Initiate reassignment protocol for all involved officers." "Confirmed," the voice said. "Process began 30 seconds ago." The air shifted, not just in the crowd. In the officers, phones buzzed. Radios crackled. The senior officer's own phone lit up. "Internal notice. Suspension review initiated. Please await official contact. Do not engage." He read it once, then again. He looked at Malcolm like he was seeing him for the first time. Like the cuffs didn't belong on this man. Like they never did. Malcolm turned slightly, showing his wrists. Renee held up a device. Unlocking cuffs. Federal override code. Blackwell -721. They clicked open. He rubbed his wrists. Looked around at the sea of cameras. Mouths open, minds racing, then said calmly, "You've all just witnessed a live demonstration of access and consequence." He stepped forward, past the stunned officers, not running, not hurrying, owning the ground beneath him. The crowd parted without a word. And from somewhere in the distance, someone clapped. The senior officer stood frozen, his mouth opened, as if to say something, anything, to regain control, but the words wouldn't come. Not when your authority has just been overwritten by a man you put in handcuffs. Not when your badge now pings red in Federal Review. Not when the entire internet is watching, and you are trending worldwide for all the wrong reasons. "Officer Daniels," Renee said, her voice flat, like reading from a script. "You are now under temporary suspension, pending investigation. You are instructed to relinquish command immediately." He blinked. "I didn't. It wasn't. I was doing my job." Malcolm turned toward him. "Your job," He took a slow step forward. Your job is to protect, to serve, not to profile, not to humiliate. Another step. Your job is to uphold the law, not to weaponize it. Daniels looked down. The smirk was gone. The arrogance dissolved. I thought, he mumbled. Malcolm didn't let him finish. You didn't think, that's the problem. The crowd, once buzzing with chaos, had gone still. One teenager whispered, "Bro's getting fired in 4K. A woman near the front said, "No one's ever done this before. Not like this." Daniels turned toward the other officers. Maybe for backup. Maybe for pity. They all stepped back. The rookie lowered his eyes. Quiet. Regretful. Malcolm leaned in. Just enough for Daniels to hear. You don't get to decide who belongs. Then he said louder. And today, you don't belong here anymore. Silence. Then, a ripple of applause. Soft at first, then louder. A full wave of clapping from the overpass. The shoulder, the livestream audience shouting in all caps. Daniels stepped away. Shoulders sunken, shrinking under the weight of exposure. He had come here thinking he was in charge. He left not even knowing who he was anymore. Malcolm stood tall. The cuffs gone, but the imprint still pressed into his skin, the same way racism left marks. Not always visible, but deep. He turned toward the officers still lingering. None of you spoke up, he said. None of you stepped forward. The rookie looked away. Malcolm walked to the nearest patrol vehicle, spoke into the dash cam, clear and direct. Malcolm Elijah Blackwell, CEO of Sentinel Data Systems. This is a formal report of systemic misconduct, witnessed live, archived across 5 federal surveillance servers, and duplicated on 14,000 public feeds. He turned toward the crowd. Justice isn't personal. But today, it will be. Renee opened a private line on her tablet. Sentinel Executive Ops on standby. Malcolm gave the command. Begin rollout, Protocol Polaris. Within seconds, things began moving. One by one. Officer radios crackled. Access denied. Login error. System locked. ID not recognized. The city's officer database? Offline. Their evidence log? Scrambled. Archived under investigation hold. Malcolm didn't shout. He didn't raise a hand. But his company, his creation, was cutting oxygen from a corrupted branch of a broken system. The rookie ran forward. Sir, Mr. Blackwell, I didn't know. Malcolm turned slowly. You knew, he said, but you were afraid. A pause. From now on, be afraid of silence. He handed him a card. Call this number. Legal aid for internal whistleblowers. Then he stepped back. Renee looked at him. That's generous. He nodded. Revenge alone changes nothing. But just then, a new notification pinged. Governor's Office FAA Direct Acknowledgement Message. Full compliance with SDS recommendations. Reform Board deployment scheduled. The crowd roared. From phones. From balconies. From behind car windows. A woman in tears whispered. He just changed the game. A teen livestreamer grinned. Yo, we just witnessed history. Malcolm walked to his car. The Rolls Royce still gleamed, untouchable. Before getting in, he turned one last time to those who watched silently. Remember, silence is agreement. Then he entered the car. It purred to life and vanished into the highway. The man they tried to break. Now the man who broke their system. The highway returned to silence. But no one who watched that morning would ever forget what they saw. Not because a man in a suit fought back, but because he didn't need to raise his voice to do it. Malcolm Elijah Blackwell taught the world something that day. Power isn't in the noise. It's in the receipt, the evidence, the systems, the silence you weaponize when they expect you to break. He didn't just expose one officer. He peeled back a curtain on a culture and burned it in front of the world. And still, he didn't gloat. He didn't pose for the cameras. He simply drove away, like a man who had a meeting with destiny waiting just 10 exits ahead. Some said he embarrassed the system, but the truth? He upgraded it, because now, every officer, every agency, every institution that thinks power protects them from consequence, will remember the day a black man in a Rolls Royce pulled over quietly and rewired the entire network from the shoulder of a highway. And maybe, just maybe, next time someone says, "You don't belong here," they'll hesitate, because Malcolm Blackwell made sure. We all belong. Faye next episode. Preview. The footage went viral, but But 3 days later, a mysterious email lands in Malcolm's inbox. From a man who claims to be a former FBI ghost asset. He says, "They've been watching you since before Sentinel even launched.